Okay, I guess it's time to share a little bit more of my personal journey. This is just to document my Kundalini process journey. Just to recap, Kundalini, it appears, has reached Makara, if not reached Bindu. I'm still a little questioning whether she has reached Bindu permanently, but I know for certain she has been visiting Bindu. And once Kundalini reaches Makara point, she once again brings up everything, everything that you thought you worked through in the past, but she brings it all up once again. And this is called, once Kundalini reaches Makara, she enters into the phase called restoration and renovation process. And that's when, like I said, it's called unloading. She is unloading all the stuff that you packaged away nice and neatly from your lower Kundalini release process. So you thought you got rid of all the shit before. But no, you did not. You just packed it away in nice boxes and you thought you had a clean go of it. But those boxes were sitting nice and neat in your subtle body. And once Kundalini reaches Makara point, then she says, the renovation and restoration can truly take place. And now we will bring these things up again in we're going to unload the boxes and we are going to burn them away. We are literally burning them out of your subtle body so that they are gone forever. And so I continue in this process. This process takes years, of course. And I can just say it's quite exhausting, physically exhausting. And I totally understand why. In the books from Kundalini Vidya by Joan Harrigan and her other book that is about all the spiritual transformations, personal stories of spiritual transformation. I highly recommend those books if you feel that you are in a Kundalini process. Yeah, I just lost my train. Anyway, this unloading process, all the stories talk about how once the person reaches Makara or Bindu, particularly Makara, that they just can't do very much, how utterly exhausted, like they push themselves and they pay for it. And I totally recognize that. I absolutely have no level of energy that I used to. And when I push myself, I really harm myself. Anyway, so I'm like exhausted all the time, not in a bad way, but I can feel my subtle body is being worked on. And that when I engage in things that are not in alignment with, that are in alignment with ego self, whatever self that is remaining, it really drains my energy because everything is being pulled inwards. My attention is being pulled inwards all the time. Okay, what else do I have to tell you? So I continue with my weekly body work to release traumas. That's still coming up. The emotions, the twisting, the body, the release. So that also adds to the exhaustion. And I would say that what is being unloaded currently and has been a theme for a long time, not particular events or phrases that get stuck in the mind that are easy to clear. This is what's coming up for me is my general overall feeling about myself, feelings of just, self-hatred, and and just feelings about life, kind of like a low vibrational perspective and not accepting my life as it is. And this was generated in the womb. I saw this in one of my bodywork sessions. I went right back into the womb. It was, wow, it was crazy. And I could feel the projected energies from my parents and the environment that just kind of said, oh, kind of like, oh, don't want you here. This life is it's just some real negative energies that manifested in myself as self-hate, self-loathing, and just kind of a worldview of, well, I don't want to be here, you know, this or, and right now, when one reaches Makara and has all these great openings, you come to realize that the spiritual journey, and I know you hear this all the time, and I've said it many times, isn't going to be all the time rainbows and seeing auras and angels and whatever. You're not going to be on cloud nine. It's not bliss all the time. In fact, the higher the progression of Kundalini and the more openings that you have, the more ordinary your life becomes. And I will tell you right now, the ego self that is remaining clinging for its dear life cannot accept this. It's utterly disappointed and like mad at God that I'm not having all these great experiences anymore. And that's what happens when Kundalini reaches Makara and Bindu. Experiences go away. And Adyashanti gives a wonderful talk about this in one of his talks entitled when the self drops away. I think it's a pretty recent talk. He talks about this, that when he had complete dissolution of the self, and as the self progressively drops away, all your experiences drop away, and your experiences of God, like there's no more God. And, you know, when you have an ego that has spent an entire lifetime on the spiritual journey in hopes of laying everything it has in hopes of having like this great woo-woo life and feeling good and always was hoping for this bliss effect, and having it realize that that's not the case, that the real journey is in just being an absolute ordinary person with no special gifts, the ego will fight back and just won't believe it. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm dealing with, and I'm exhausted most of the time. But I have the awareness of what is going on, and I'm really feeling into this process. That's all I can say. Now, what else do I want to share? We've had some really high points that I wish to share with you because they're very enlightening. So yeah, all the unloading is exhausting. Yeah. So I did have some peak experiences that I'll share with you. I think in the past I've shared with you about having samadhi experiences, and what I have come to realize now is those were lower samadhi, and I knew that lower samadhi, but this past month I hate to say it sounds so arrogant, and so the words are wrong, but, and experience is not the right word, but reached high level samadhi, or the highest level of samadhi, or turiya, or no mind, or absorption. So let me just take you into the process that happened. So in one of my meditations, and this is all the process that I'm going to share with you, what I didn't realize is it is the exact process that appears when someone in upper process takes the route of Kundalini takes a particular route called Hrit process, or Hrit Padma. And that has to do with, and not everyone goes through this. Everyone has a different path. You know, there are several different paths that Kundalini takes in the upper process. Some do guru triangle, some do stopping stations, some straight to Bindu. What else? I can't even remember. Some do Jiva Mukta. So there's all different flavors of process that Kundalini can take up here. I know I'm not making sense. However, there's one called Hrit process, and that's when Kundalini comes back down and comes into the heart to open the heart. And these just generate different perspectives after the final, quote unquote, final flowering. It does something different for each person. And by no means am I comparing myself, because many people go through the Hrit process or the heart process, but the two most familiar people in history that you'll recognize as Hrit process, and they wrote books about it, are, I've just lost, Saint John of the Cross, who wrote Dark Night of the Soul, and Saint Teresa of Avila, who their books are all talking about their Kundalini process. They didn't know it then, but they were Hrit process people. And they talk about how God goes away, and it's it's just really dark night of the soul. Okay, and many people go through this. And if you get Joan Harrigan's book, Spiritual Transformations, you'll see several personal stories of everyday ordinary people who speak about going through Hrit process and all different kinds of Kundalini process. Okay, so what I'm going to describe to you, I did not know this because I had not read it. The process that I experienced is the process of Hrit Padma process. And what this gentleman, Hassan, he's one of the writers sharing his personal story, like when I read his description of what happened, it was identical to what happened to me. So I can only assume I'm going through Hrit process, but I can't say for sure, because they always say it's so dangerous to diagnose yourself. What are you going to do? Okay, so in meditation, I had this, something happened, and what I felt was, you know, that brilliant white light appeared here, and then suddenly it appeared in my heart. And it was just like this diamond spark in my heart. And when I came out of meditation, and for the next several days, week, and even to this day, although it's not as strong, what happened was I could look at something, usually more of a living thing, and immediately I could feel that white light, diamond energy feeling in my heart and in their heart. And it was the most sublime, subtle knowing of everything all wrapped up into one. My heart connecting to their heart, but at a totally different level. And it just, everything landed, and it was like the knowing of all knowings. Okay. And that's basically how this guy in the book describes it, if I can find my place. And he talks about what I've been feeling has no perfect way of being put. Words don't do it justice, but here's my best. It is as if my heart is connected not to what appears, but to some unseen core, something that is. Whatever is more real than what is presenting at the surface of things. But it is as if I know this kind of knowledge more thoroughly, more incontrovertibly, more pleasurably than anything I've known before. And he goes on. And that is exactly the way he describes it further, is exactly how it felt. It's a beyond knowing of everything that is more real than anything in the outer world. And I'll tell you, after that started fading away, because you have these peak experiences and you can't hold it because there's still this self, this ego self clinging and getting in the way. And what it just has done for me is it's kind of made my perception of this outer appearance, it's like, this is so not real anymore. And it's hard for me to kind of like balance things out, because I want to keep going back to that. Now, after that experience, or that opening, in meditation, my next meditation, I guess, well, what I knew it to be immediately afterwards was absorption, no mind absorption. And that's the highest level of samadhi. Like you're gone, completely gone. And this was further gone than the other samadhis, the other level of samadhi. And the other, like lower levels of samadhi, there's still a you experiencing oneness. There's still there's like a you and a something else. In the high level of samadhi, there's an absorption. There's no more you. And I was totally absorbed, like gone, didn't know I was gone until I kind of came back. And in that instant of coming back, I felt my awareness, or I don't know, I don't have the words for it, turning around, like going, what? And realizing there was nothing else there, that I was totally absorbed into whatever, totally absorbed, and there was no longer a me. There was no mind. That's exactly how I felt it. I felt absorbed, no mind. It was unbelievable. And what there wasn't a second. There was no reflective consciousness there, as in lower samadhis. There's a you there, witnessing or seeing or experiencing, and I don't know what the word is, of not being a self. But in absorption, there's not even a self to experience. I don't even know how to explain it. Anyway, it's sublime. And after I came out with that no mind lasted for quite a while. And then spontaneously, it happened 2 other times. It happened while being on a Zoom call. There was just simply nothing here. There was no self, no mind clinging. Now, that doesn't mean there wasn't thinking. There's awareness. I'm probably using all the wrong words, but there was the ability for awareness or consciousness to think. But there was this no separate self interfering. Like the ego construct was completely gone during that time. And your head just feels so empty. And you don't realize, like you think you know the effect that the mind has in your everyday life, but until you have no mind, you cannot perceive the amount your mind, I shouldn't say just mind, I should say this ego self is interfering with everything. And to not have it is like the most unbelievable feeling. You're so empty, you're so free. There's no longer any interference. There's no memory. There's nothing but the now. This empty space of consciousness can think and is open to receiving everything in the now without interference. And that is glorious. And I believe that would be Turiya, the experience of Turiya. And I would say the one who can hold that state when the self falls away, drops away permanently, like in Adyashanti's case, then that is when you're enlightened. To me, that's enlightenment. And I have a long, long way to go, but at least I'm getting glimpses of it. And I will continue to fight to the death to get there more often. Anyway, the third experience of that was, I remember I was working at the computer and then I stood up, I was in self was still clinging. And then I stood up and suddenly I was gone. The self had dropped away once again. And it was such a goneness that for a moment, I guess to have fear, the self was still there. It was like so fast, and then maybe self came back. But I thought I couldn't move because I wasn't there. And it scared me for a little bit. There was a little fleeting bit of fear because I thought this body is going to drop away. I'm not here. I don't know. I can't explain it, but it just went. Anyway, it was glorious, but scary at the same time. Okay, how does this relate to anything I'm trying to share with you? So let's see. To putting all this process together and connecting it with the Hrit process, the heart opening process. So I've correlated it with that guy's personal experience, but also I went to go look up, and in the book Kundalini Vidya, which I highly recommend, this process, it talks about the Hrit Padma process. And this is the process that Kundalini takes, it has a little diagram. And here's what happens. Point one, there's 8 steps that Kundalini goes through. The first step is the Manas point. The Manas point is the right Padma. Sorry, is this right? Yeah, no, yeah. And this is the mind. This is the a point. I don't want to say chakra, but a lotus. Padma means lotus. That is mind stuff. And on the left is the Hrit Padma, or the Hrit process that connects heart. Yeah. So the mind, first step, mind becomes concentrated. So this is in often in meditation, but it can happen in outer life. Mind becomes concentrated. Second, the mind lotus then becomes calm. It's a calm quality and the center engages. 3, then the mind connects with Hrit. So the Manas point connects with Hrit, the heart point, the spiritual heart. It's kind of an unknown location. Nobody knows exactly where the exact point is, but Shakti works on the left side. So 3, then mind connects with heart. 4, no mind experience frees Kundalini Shakti to elevate to Bindu. Then she goes up to Bindu, and there's absorption into the one. That's exactly what happened to me. 5, that's step 5. Step 6, Kundalini Shakti returns to Hrit. 7, she re-engages the mind, so the mind comes back. And then 8, mind resumes its external focus. Step by step, that is exactly what happened to me. So I don't know, am I in Hrit process? I have a feeling I am, and that's why this whole self-loathing, self-acceptance thing is just an issue. And, you know, this whole process cannot culminate or find some stability while I'm still in like, hating myself or whatever, or just not appreciating life, my ordinary, boring, absolutely boring life as it is. So I guess that's all I wanted to share. As usual, I've talked forever and too long. But the process continues. And I don't know if, you know, that process when absorption happens and Kundalini hits Bindu, does that mean that has Bindu been reached, or am I just getting glimpses? Who knows? Who really cares? But it just doesn't matter to me. But it's just interesting, this process. So the process continues. It's not all rainbows and angels. In fact, it's less than that. And you know, my advice to you is really, if you can, start appreciating the absolute ordinariness, boringness of your own life, and learn self-acceptance. And I don't know if that's the right word. I don't like self-love, because I don't want there to be an I out here trying to love myself. It's just kind of just recognizing, appreciating, accepting yourself. Okay, until next time, until I reach Turia forever, which, you know, maybe 10 years from now. Okay, bye.